my friends, Lizzy here from the Burgess-Shadbush Nature Center, and today we are talking about bees because June is pollinator month and we're going to be celebrating this very special pollinator. And with me to share this information is my good friend Jason. So what do you do as a beekeeper?
So our job as beekeepers is to we're interested in beekeepers, in being beekeepers because we want the honey most of the time. But, you know, there's a lot of hobby beekeepers that want bees in their garden to pollinate their roses and just, you know, be good for the local ecology. So I'm interested in the honey, and part of that is I want to, just like a farmer raises cows for meat or for milk, I want my bees to be really healthy and productive so they'll make the most honey they possibly can.
So Jason, tell me about bees and pollinators and why they're important.
Yeah, so bees and pollinators are super important because they allow flowers and plants and even trees to reproduce season after season and year after year. And that's really important for humans because up to 1/3 of the food that we eat comes from pollinators like honeybees. Things like blueberries, strawberries, pears, squashes, melons, even our almonds that we eat. They're all able to be made and harvested because of honeybees.
That's amazing. You just listed like all my favorite foods and made me a little hungry. But I thought bees could be kind of dangerous. Don't they have a stinger?
They do have a stinger. That's one of their defense mechanisms. But bees shouldn't be feared, but we should respect them. So if you see a cluster of bees hanging out in a tree, or if you see a hive somewhere, don't approach it unless you're wearing the proper protective equipment, like a suit or a veil, and make sure that you're with an adult who knows what they're doing and is trained to handle, honeybees. The other thing too is that bees do not want to sting you. I think there's a misconception that bees are mean because they sting you, but I really just think that's a miscommunication, that we've done something wrong that they find threatening, and that's why they sting. But they're not trying to sting you.
Okay, so if I'm having a picnic with my family and a bee lands on me, what should I do?
Don't swat at the bee. Just realize the bee probably wants some of your soda pop or your juice or something sweet, because that's what bees, eat. They like nectar, which is, for all intents and purposes, just sugar water. So
they're just looking for like a tasty treat.
They're just looking for something good to sip on.
So can you tell me what you have right here?
So this is a standard Langstroth 10-frame beehive. This is the most common beehive that is used for beekeepers in the United States. We can take it apart here and you can see the insides.
Do you have bees in here?
There are no bees in here. This is just an empty demonstration box. So this is the inner cover. It has a feed hole. Sometimes part of keeping bees healthy is usually in the early spring. They've just come out of a very cold winter. They might not have very much food left in their pantry, and so we might have to feed the bees, and so we feed them a sugar syrup, which is just sugar and water. White granulated sugar like your mom or dad uses in the kitchen to bake a cake. This is what a frame looks like before it's had the wax drawn out on it. And so this is a black plastic frame, but you can also get natural wax foundation as well. And the bees will draw this out. They make wax from some organs on their abdomen, like nectar and pollen from trees. The pollen is a protein source and the nectar is a carbohydrate source. So think of it like eating a sugary donut, the nectar is.
My favorite.
Once this is drawn out, the queen, there's usually only one queen per hive. She'll lay eggs inside each cell, and that raises the next generation of worker bees. Those worker bees spend some time inside the hive. About half of their life is spent in the hive, and they're doing things like taking care of the other baby bees, cleaning up, feeding the queen, and then they'll transition and they'll do a little bit of time being a guard bee, and then finally their last job in life before they die is to go out and be a forager bee. So that's the bees that you see leaving the hive and going to get that pollen and that nectar. Those are the oldest bees in the colony.
Oh, wow, I had no idea. There are a lot of jobs in the beehive.
There are a lot of jobs that need to be done inside of a productive beehive.
So once you have the bees are making honey, how do you harvest them?
So we'll extract these frames, and if the honey is all capped over with wax, as you can see here on this this comb, we'll take a dull knife and we'll just remove the cappings off of the honey, and then we use a centrifuge, which just spins the frame, and all the heavy honey wants to come out of the cells. Then we can give the frame back to the bees and they can fill it up again. So there's very little waste when we harvest the honey.
Can you eat the honey just from the combs?
You sure can.
Do you ever?
Yeah.
I'm sure. That's awesome. Do you have to wear any type of protective gear when you go out and look for honey?
We do. So when we're dealing with the hives, we have a smoker. I don't have one here with me, but we have a smoker, and that calms the bees down. It makes them less likely to sting, and it also interrupts their smelling, because if one bee stings you, she leaves behind a little smell that alerts the other sisters in the hive that they should sting you too to defend the colony. So we use the smoke to interrupt that process so that they don't want to sting you. We also wear usually a white suit or a veil. The white is very calming for bees. The reason why we don't wear dark colors is because natural predators for honeybees, such as bears, raccoons, they're usually dark colored, and we don't want to mimic a bear or a raccoon when we're in the hive.
Wow, I had no idea. So now that we know that bees are important and that we have great people like you out there getting the honey that we love to eat, how can we help bees in our backyard?
So not everyone needs to become a beekeeper to help our honeybees and other pollinators too. Honeybees are just one of the pollinators that we really like, but we have small mammals pollinate flowers, hummingbirds and other birds. We have caterpillars and butterflies that are really important. So we really want to strengthen and give all of those different pollinators room to live and the food to eat, and both are very important. So some of the best things that you can do is plant a pollinator garden of Michigan native plants or wherever it is that you live. You can also try to use less pesticides in your lawn and replace as much lawn with garden as you can, because lawn doesn't feed pollinators, but flowers and trees do.
So would you suggest that I keep the dandelions in my yard in May?
If you can, try to keep the dandelions and the clover until they've gone away, and then mow after the dandelions are done.
Well, that's great news, because I think they're really pretty anyway.
I do too.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope all my friends at home learned some great things about bees and how they can help them, and we'll just keep them around for the next generation.
Thank you for having me.